Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Victoria and today we're going to read a news article about tourism and protests in Europe. So why are locals protesting against tourists? So let's read an article and find out. And don't worry, at the end of the lesson you will be able to download a PDF file with all vocabulary, with exercises and some interesting tips and hints how to use ChatGPT voice feature to practice those words and use them in speech. Let's start. A point of no return. Why Europe has become an epicenter for anti-tourism protests this summer. This article was retrieved in August 2024 from CNN News website. As you can see, I color-coded as well some information in this article. Green color stands for some grammar, interesting grammar points, in my opinion, and the yellow one is for vocabulary. Anti-tourism protests have been sweeping across Europe this summer, with demonstrations taking place in the Netherlands, Greece, and of course, Spain. Have been sweeping. To sweep, you know what it means. It means to clean, usually a floor. It's irregular verb, and sweep, swept, swept. But what does it mean here? In this context, it means to spread quickly through an area. It means to spread quickly. So the rumor swept across the office in no time, we can say. Have been sweeping. I just want to bring your attention to this part because this is present perfect continuous. And you can see here that we're using it because it started during summer and it was in progress while this article was written. Okay, taking place in is another interesting verb. To take place means to happen. And remember, we use preposition in when we speak about places where it happens. In early July, protesters marched through popular tourist areas in the Spanish city of Barcelona, spraying unsuspecting visitors with water pistols while chanting, "Tourists, go home." In early July, remember, when we talk about months, we should use in early July, in August, in late September. Unsuspecting. Unsuspecting is a good adjective to know. It means unaware. These people were not aware of some kind of danger, let's say, or that something is going to happen. And while chanting, it's a gerund form of the verb to chant. To chant means to sing, to sing a phrase or words repeating them again and again, like tourists go home, tourists go home, you know, like during these strikes and protests. And most recently, thousands protested in the Spanish island of Majorca, with organizers claiming the island's tourism model impoverishes workers and enriches only a few. You can see two highlighted words here, impoverish. To impoverish means to make somebody poor, which means that this island's tourism doesn't really bring a lot of money to locals. So people do not earn enough. And another one is enrich. To enrich, it means to make somebody rich. That's the first meaning of this verb. And this is the direct meaning of this verb in this sentence. But to enrich means also to improve, for example, to make something better, like reading news enriches your vocabulary, which means makes it better, improves. Overtourism backlash. What does it mean, a backlash? A backlash is a strong negative reaction, so it's a protest. We can say overtourism protest. At the center of the protests lies the growing issue of rising rents and house prices, which has made home ownership almost impossible for some residents. I highlighted the word lies. It's a verb here, and you can see that this word has a couple of meanings, actually 4 meanings, if I remember correctly. So, and the most popular that people usually associate it with is not to tell the truth. So to lie, it means to say something that is not true. But in this case, this is a different meaning, and it means to be, to exist, or to be present, or to constitute the problem. So here it says that the growing issue of rising rents is the center, is the core problem of the protest, is the reason why people are protesting. Ownership is another interesting noun, and it means that somebody owns something. You know, an owner is the person who owns a house or a flat or a car or some other property. So ownership is the right or state of being an owner. Carlos Ramirez, a school teacher in Barcelona, northeast Spain, has been saving for his first house for years and earns a decent state salary, he says. You can see highlighted in green, which means grammar, has been saving, and for. I want to remind you that we should use present perfect continuous, has been doing, has been saving, if the action started in the past and continues up till present. And you can see here that we have 4 years. That's the reason why we're using present perfect continuous, because we know how long this action was in progress or is in progress. And earns a decent, and decent is an adjective. Decent means proper, quite good, satisfactory. But you can see also it's in quotes. So why? Because it's a kind of ironic, I would say, usage of this adjective here, because it's used with state salary, which means that the government pays you. And school teacher, you know, so teachers are, unfortunately, are not well paid, and therefore it's a kind of ironic usage of this adjective decent, but you can use this adjective as a very good one. You can say he is a decent man, a decent family man, you know, a devoted person who cares about his family. Okay, move on. Let's move on. But prices in the Catalan capital are skyrocketing, and Ramirez, 26, fears he will be driven out. A few interesting words here. Skyrocketing. To skyrocket is a verb, and it means to increase extremely quickly. So prices are skyrocketing. It's a regular verb. You can say prices have skyrocketed. Another one that I highlighted for you is be driven out, will be driven out. To be driven out, it's a passive form, and you can see that it means to be forced to leave a place. So he fears he will be forced to leave a place because everyone I know lives here, he told CNN. But the only way you can afford to live right now in Barcelona is sharing with 2, 3, 4 people. Like other residents in Southern Europe whose cities double as popular summer travel destinations, Ramirez puts much of the blame for the increasing cost on one thing: mass tourism. You can find highlighted afford to live. You can afford to live. I highlighted it in green because I believe it's important to remember after the verb afford, which means to be able to buy something, to have enough money to buy something or to do something, we use an infinitive form, to live. I can't afford to buy this car, it's too expensive, or I can afford to buy this house. And another word which I highlighted in yellow, which means vocabulary, to double. Whose cities double? To double is a verb here, to increase twofold, and it means to become twice bigger. Double as popular summer travel destinations. Ramirez puts much of the blame for the increasing costs on. To put the blame for something on something or somebody. You can say, she put the blame for breaking the vase on her brother. For instance, just keep in mind, prepositions are very, very essential. It's becoming more and more difficult for locals, especially younger people, to have their own place, he said. As the years have gone by, more and more tourists have come. Again, a little bit of grammar. It's becoming present continuous. It's a developing situation. It's happening now and during this time, right? It's developing, so we use present continuous. More and more difficult. And you can see also as the years have gone by. Here we have some grammar and vocabulary. As the years have gone by, I just like this expression. It means over time, in the course of time. So just You can learn and use it when you speak or when you write something. More and more tourists have come. And again, just remember, when we don't mention exact time, it's appropriate to use present perfect. And sometimes when students ask if present perfect is widely used, yes, it is used. And I really, really want you to learn it. In Barcelona, rents have increased by 68% over the past decade, according to the city's mayor, Colboni, a pattern that is mirrored across other European cities. Again, some grammar, have increased by. Just remember, present perfect here, rents have increased, and then if you're using a percentage, you have to use by 68%, and then over the past decade. So over is also used, a good preposition to remember. And another one is according to the city's mayor. It means that he said that. A pattern is a noun. It's a particular way in which something is done. It's like a pattern of behavior in this case, right? A pattern, how prices increased. You can use it in another context. For example, he follows the same pattern every morning: coffee, exercises, and then work. So that's a pattern. Many residents have had enough. Some have taken extreme measures to make their voices heard, with locals demonstrating against excessive tourism in the Spanish Canary Islands, calling for a hunger strike back in April. Again, I highlighted a few present perfect phrases. Verbs have had enough. It means that they have had enough and they cannot bear it, tolerate it anymore. And some have taken, again, you can see, have taken extreme measures. So this is all about grammar, present perfect. So make sure you use present perfect. And then you can see excessive. Excessive means more than typical, more than normal, something too much. So you can say excessive tourism, it's like over-tourism. Or you can say eating excessive amounts of sugar can be harmful to your health. It's another good word to learn. When anti-tourism protesters started to fire water pistols at visitors in the Barcelona city center on July 6, a moment that gained international attention, Ramirez said he could feel the resentment in the air. On July 6, you remember I told you in July before, and you might wonder why on July 6. You should use in July, in August, when you don't have any dates, any numbers. And if you have a specific date, July 6th, you should use on July 6th. So, because it's a day, technically, on Monday, on Tuesday. So, but just keep in mind, on July 6th. And another one is resentment. Resentment is a noun, and it's a feeling of some kind of anger, bitterness, displeasure. And it usually arises from being treated unfairly, or something, you feel something is wrong and you don't like it and it's just growing. You can say over the years, resentment grew between the two neighbors due to constant disputes over the property line. For example, they had some, disputes, and so this argument wasn't resolved. So this is the feeling of resentment. Building resentment. This part is about how this feeling of displeasure and anger among locals grew. Locals have been protesting to reclaim space from visitors in the Spanish destinations of Mallorca and the Canary Islands. I highlighted have been protesting to draw your attention again to the present perfect continuous here because it started in the past and continues up until present. To reclaim is a verb which means to take back something that was yours. So they just basically want to take back this space, this land, from tourists so that they can use it for free. He says that he was pleased to see so many residents join the demonstration, which some 2,800 people attended according to the Barcelona City Council. Here I highlighted some 2,000. 2,800 people attending. Some, in this case, plus number means about, approximately. Yes, so some plus number means about, approximately 2,000, and you can hear 2,000, not thousands. Even though we have two, you should remember we say we use it in singular form. 2,800 people attending according to Barcelona City Council. A lot of people, a lot of companies are now warning tourists about visiting Spain because of hostility and all of that. Frankly, I think it worked, Ramirez said, reflecting on the ability of the protest to dissuade tourists from visiting the city. You can see a noun, hostility. Hostility, it means unfriendliness. And hostile, adjective, would be unfriendly. It's a hostile environment, and hostility because of hostility. Frankly is a nice word to, instead of like honestly speaking, frankly speaking, you can briefly say frankly. And to dissuade, you can see dissuade, you know the word to persuade, and this is dissuade. To dissuade means to persuade somebody not to do something, yes? To dissuade somebody from, and then you can see after this preposition from, we are using another word and as a verb with an ing ending. So remember, to dissuade somebody from doing something. Martins, an expert in sustainable tourism from the University of Queensland, said the reputational impact of such protests could influence where tourists decide to travel. You remember the word sustainable. Sustainable means something that is developing, it's an adjective, developing but not harmful to the environment and to local people. So here, sustainable tourism, it's a priority nowadays. It should be. Barcelona now has a really bad reputation for other tourists who don't want to visit because they are scared, she said. But Eduardo Santander, CEO of the European Travel Commission, a non-profit association responsible for the promotion of Europe as a travel destination, suggests that incidents like the protests in Barcelona are isolated and do not reflect the complete reality of Spain or Europe. Responsible for, again, just remember, responsible is somebody who deals with some issues and who has to take measures. Responsible for is a preposition that you should use with this adjective. And then a noun, an incident. Incident's the plural form here. This is some event that is something unpleasant or unusual. And in this case, it's both. You can see like the protest, and actually I pronounce it with the stress on the first syllable, protest, a protest, because it's a noun, because a verb to protest, which looks the same, should be pronounced with the stress on the second syllable, to protest. A protest is a noun and to protest is a verb. Okay, let's continue reading. Generally, Martins believes that this isn't a clash between tourists and residents. A clash is a fight, yes, or an argument between tourists and residents. For me, they are a broader reflection of tourism that is not sustainably managed, she said. Okay, so not sustainably managed, it means not well planned, so that it's harmful. When I see those clashes where residents are sort of revolting against tourism, I think it's a reflection of them not being happy because they don't get any benefits from the tourism that they see, she added. You can see the word revolting. To revolt is a verb, means revolt against. It means here to take some actions against something, and here a sort of revolting against tourism. Ramirez agrees with this sentiment. A sentiment means a feeling or an opinion in this case, agrees with this opinion. Yes, a sentiment. I can empathize with them. We are not blaming the tourists directly, he said. We want to pressure our government to change policies. Okay, that's good to hear. So to empathize with somebody, empathize with with somebody. Just keep in mind, it means to understand and to share the feelings of somebody, of another person. And so that's what locals do. They just want to put some pressure on their government. The main issues at play here are structural, not personal, Martin said. Issues at play. I really like this phrase. So it means factors that might be influencing the situation. So the main issues at play. Probably it's a nice phrase to learn and to remember how to use it. Residents who are priced out due to unsustainable levels of tourism are typically paid lower wages, and some are working in the tourism industry itself, she said. She added. Okay, so here there are a few interesting places. Are priced out. It means that they are unable to afford something. This is a passive structure. To be priced out, it means they cannot afford something. Due to is a preposition, due to, because of. Due to, this is the reason, tourism, unsustainable tourism. And unsustainable, you remember sustainable, something that is developing and is not harmful to the environment. Unsustainable means that something that is developing also, but at this rate, it cannot be maintained anymore. It cannot be it cannot last anymore, just because it will ruin everything, right? So we can say that the high rent increases are unsustainable for many families. It means that it cannot continue this way anymore. So it's officials in Venice have recently hailed a temporary entrance fee designed to regulate tourist numbers as a success. To hail, it's a verb which means to praise something positively, to say that something worked. Have recently hailed is present perfect. A temporary entrance fee. A fee is an amount of money you have to pay to enter a museum usually, but it's a city here. The new €5, about $5.4 tourist charge, which began on April 25th and concluded on July 14th, brought in more than €2.4 million, about $2.6 million, significantly more than expected, according to Venice Mayor Luigi Brugnaro. I hope I pronounced the last name correctly. As you can see, I highlighted the verb to conclude here. To conclude in this context means to end something. So it was the end of this experiment. She concluded her speech by thanking her family, for example. She finished her speech. An interesting part of this paragraph is also about pronouncing and numbers. As you can see, tourist charge, we have a noun here, tourist charge. So it's a fee that you have to pay, and that's why I would say a €5 tourist charge. €5, I would write this way, as you can see on the screen. And also, you remember when we have a specific date on April 25th, on July 14th, we should use on preposition. Brought in more than €2.4 million. So 2.4 million without S, and then you would use euros, the currency, in a plural form. Some residents told a CNN team on the ground that while still busy, crowds seem smaller during this scheme, but others don't agree. Well, team on the ground means a group of people who work there locally on the ground, yes, at this place. And we also have the scheme. A scheme is a specific, basically, pattern here. This plan, in this case, it's a plan during the scheme. It means during this plan of introducing an entrance fee. Susanna Poloni from the Venice-based Solidarity Network for Housing Group told CNN the text is not only useless, but also harmful, as it brings into the international imagination the idea of a Venice land where you must buy a ticket to enter. So I believe this part is pretty clear, so that in her opinion, it has a negative effect and has this Venice land effect, like Disneyland, so where you come and you have to pay. Poloni adds that mass tourism has already caused healthcare services to close, neighborhood shops to be replaced by souvenir shops, and house prices to boom in Italy's canal city. To boom is a verb which you can see I highlighted, so it means to increase, in this case, house prices to boom. We are about to reach a point of no return, Poloni said. We think that our cry for help from a city that is dying for the profit of a few should reach the whole world. We are about to be about to, it means to be going to do something. To reach a point of no return, it means we are going to reach this point when it will be very hard to change something, to make the changes. Despite backlash from some, most cities across Europe are following suit, and some are even looking to expand their tourist charges. To follow suit, it's an idiom and a good one to do the same things as somebody else. So the cities are doing the same as Venice. They are introducing this entrance fee. They are following suit. And some are even looking to look to do something. It means to consider, to plan, to do something. Yes, to be going to do. So some are even looking to expand their tourist charges. Barcelona's mayor Calboni announced recently that he wants to raise the city's tourist tax for some cruise passengers. There is more to read in this article, so guys, you can find a free PDF in this video description and download it. After that, you can finish reading the article, you can find new vocabulary, useful examples, and vocabulary exercises, and you will also be interested in some topics for classroom discussions. If you like this video, subscribe to my channel, like the video, and share. So let's read more articles together. See you soon. Bye-bye.